Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Fishing in the Midwest. I'm your host, John B. I want to make today's video about crankbait fishing. The three crankbaits that I want to focus on today are shallow diving or square bill crankbaits, medium or mod depth crankbaits, and semi deep diving crankbaits. I'm going to skip over lipless crankbaits, I'm going to skip over the super deep diving crankbaits, and I'm going to skip over weight baits. The three that I'm going to talk about today are very, very useful, and you're going to be using these types of crankbaits a ton, whether you're fishing in the south, the east, the west, the northwest, the northeast. You're going to be using these three types of crankbaits probably the most. I'm just guessing right now. Before I go into any brands and styles of crankbaits, the one thing that I have to mention that goes for any type of crankbait you throw, any type of personal favorite, is changing out your hooks. This may seem kind of like a simple and dumb thing to talk about, but it's super, super important. The reason being is because most hard bait manufacturing companies will skip on the hook quality. It's not a bad thing, it actually makes sense, but the thing is a lot of hard bait companies out there will just kind of put some inexpensive low grade hooks on there, which not necessarily are terrible hooks. They're by all means very useful and you can use them, but if you want to fish to the best of your ability, you're going to want to switch them out, and here's the reason why. So I'm going to take a very light and not powerful pair of split ring pliers. I lost my train of thought, and show you guys how easy it is to bend these hooks. Now just watch this. I'm barely going to use much pressure at all. Hardly any. Zing. Look at that. As you saw right there, I was barely putting any pressure. It wasn't like I was grinding into that. I held the hook and I pushed it down with my index finger. It's very, very important to stock up on quality hooks. The main brand that I really like, and I'm not affiliated with, but the one I really like is Gamakatsu's. These hooks are very available all across the board, as far as like you can get them at Dick's Sporting Goods, Walmart, Cabela's, Bass Pro Shop. The two main types that I like to use are the Gamma EWD trebles and the Gamma round bends. I like both for different reasons. I'll use them in different situations. I haven't really figured out which one I like for better situations, but usually I'm using the round bends. They're a little less heavy and they're super strong. They don't bend out as easily and they're very, very, very sticky. Sticky meaning they're very sharp. You know, these hooks aren't going to last forever, but for the time being, they're a very good, inexpensive alternative. The next thing I want to talk about is line. Line right up there is equally as important as changing on your hooks, and I'm very particular about my line when it comes to any type of fishing, but crankbait fishing especially. The one line brand that I really like is Seeger. I go in between Seeger and Sunline. I really can't figure out which one I like better, but right now I'm landed on Seeger. I use 12 pound because it's got a smaller diameter. It's going to allow that crankbait to get down to the advertised depth, and the advertised depth is what it's labeled on the package. So if you've got like a Rapala DT10 and you throw it on 12 pound test, it's probably going to get down to 10 feet. If you were to use like 20 pound or like some ridiculous ripcord, it's probably going to get down to like, 6 or 7. You're not going to be getting down to where you want that crankbait to be. Okay, so we've covered line, hooks. The next thing we're going to cover is equipment. My cranking setup is kind of expensive. This reel is a Shimano Aldebaran. It's the older Aldebaran MG 5.8 to 1 gear ratio. I like a little bit faster gear ratio when I'm throwing crankbaits because I don't like that really low end of the 5 gear ratio. I don't like the 5.1 or 5.0 to 1. 5.8 is kind of faster. I kind of like it. In some cases, I'll even step up a notch and use my Scorpion, which is a 6.3 to 1. You don't need the Shimano Aldebaran. It's not a necessity. I don't suggest going out and spending, like $230 on this reel. But it's nice. I'm not going to bash the reel. It's a fantastic reel. Shimano makes some pretty good products. Now, the rod, on the other hand, is something I do suggest. I've been working with Cousins Tackle for a few months now. I'm fairly new to the company and the rod selection, but they sent me a rod, this specific rod right here. This rod's got the backbone to handle pretty decent sized fish and pretty decent sized crankbaits as well. I've even thrown like some 12 to 15 foot diving crankbaits on this rod, believe it or not. And it's a 7 foot medium heavy with a fast action tip. The tip is soft enough where I can kind of work that bait over hard bottom, a little bit of rock, but also powerful enough to get the hooks into that fish's mouth, especially in those colder months when the fish's mouth is a little bit more dense. This rod really came into play this fall and winter. It was like my MVP stick for the most part. I like all my cousin sticks, but I can confidently say this is my favorite one, and it's the one I highly recommend if you're going to start getting into this kind of crankbait fishing. So the other thing I want to talk about is something kind of simple, and it's the MVP tool. It's the tool that I literally keep in my pocket 100% of the time when I'm out on the lake, and it's this tool right here. This guy right here is a split ring plier tool, and it's pretty worn down, as you can see, because I've been using it a ton. I picked it up at Walmart for like 13 bucks. It's a really inexpensive aluminum pair of split ring pliers, but it comes into play when I'm changing out my hooks. People think changing out hooks is like an at-home thing. You get back home, you change out your hooks, and then you go back out in the water. I do this constantly on the boat, and I need to do it fast, and the one tool that allows me to do that very quickly is these guys right here. So my crankbait arsenal isn't too vast. You know, I was in college, I didn't have that much money to spend on equipment. Now I'm working full-time and doing the YouTube thing, so I've got a little bit more cheese to spend on the hard baits, and it's slowly building. Okay, so right here I've got 6, let's see if I can count. Yeah, 6 crankbaits, 6 shallow diving and moderate diving crankbaits that I use the most. I don't really use like a whole lot of deep diving crankbaits, like 15 and plus. It's just not my thing, and I really haven't gotten good enough about it to teach you guys what I know. So pretty much my favorite type of crankbait fishing is mod depth crankbait fishing. That means kind of like from that 7 to 11 foot range. So my first favorite mod depth diving crankbait is the DT6 by Rapala. This guy is notorious. I don't even need to talk about this dude. It's a fantastic crankbait. It's been out for a very long time, and it's great for fall fishing. The next one has been a new favorite. I've been using this just this year. It's the Ima Pinjack 200. It's a pretty inexpensive crankbait. It's only like, you know, 10 bucks. It comes with pretty decent stock hooks, so if you are SOL and don't have some gummies, you're pretty much set with these. I actually fish them with the stocks. They're super sharp and pretty durable for the most part. Another medium diving crankbait classic is the Post Rapala Wigglewort that I've got right here. Now I say Post Rapala because Storm wasn't always teamed up with Rapala, and they were making apparently a pretty killer Wigglewort. I haven't used it too much. I've used it in some cases, but not enough. I'm a little nervous to throw them because they are rare and they're kind of expensive, but this is the one you can find just about anywhere. Right here, I've got the pre-Rapala Wigglewort still in the package. I'm not sure if I'm going to open this up yet, but if you get your hands on one of these, you should probably fish it because it's got a pretty unique action. I don't know the logistics. I think there's a little bit more plastic or weight to it on one side. It gives it an erratic action. I don't know. It might be all hype, but I've got one there. I might hang it up on my wall or whatever. The last one is a Bill Norman middle end. Now this right here has caught me more 4 or 5 pound bass than any other hard bait that I've ever thrown. This is in a chrome sexy shad. I get a lot of use out of this in Lake Erie and some of those deeper kind of pressured lakes. For some reason they really like this. If they're feeding on bait fish in like early to midsummer, this is the color that I'm throwing. This is not a clear water color, but a little bit dirtier stained water. This bait really comes into play, and it dives to about 7 or 8, maybe even a little bit more depending on what diameter of line you're using. Now I don't use a whole lot of shallow diving crankbaits, or at least a variety of them. I stick to kind of 2 main ones. The 2 that I really like throwing are the Fat John 60, that's what this is called, right? Yeah, Fat John 60, which is the shallow diving of the like Little John or whatever. And the other one, of course, you all know what this bait is. I'm even hesitant to even say it. Should I say it? Yes, it's the KVD 1.5 by Strike King. It is the best thing since sliced bread. It's a very inexpensive shallow diving square bill crankbait that just flat out catches fish. Whether you're fishing it in silent, which this guy is right here, or fishing with rattles, it's going to produce fish year round. Honestly, I think that's about it. I covered some of the main aspects of crankbait fishing. You know, I don't want to go too much into like the colors because in my opinion that's personal preference. It depends on the lakes that you're fishing, you know, the styles of body of water and what the fish are doing in your area. So if I get too specific, I don't want to sway people's personal preference and what they have already predetermined when they're approaching a new lake or a reoccurring body of water. Alright, well I think that about does it for today's video. I am this close to passing out. It's almost 3 a.m. or something like that here in Northern Illinois. I'm wiped though. I got work in the morning and I wanted to make this video for you guys. As always, good fishing, and I'll catch you guys next time on the next episode of Fishing the Midwest.